We are rounding the bend into fall, and those of you who have been listening for a while know what that means. Spooky season is coming. For the past few years, the podcast turns into Foggy Oak Scary Tales in October. I have some fun episodes planned for this year's Fright Fest, and I hope you're getting excited for some kid-friendly scares. In the meantime, we are in September, and this month's episode is an adaptation of the fairy tale The Buried Moon, gathered by Joseph Jacobs in More English Fairy Tales. In this story, the moon goes missing after saving a father and his daughter who are lost in a car, or bogland. Can the villagers find and rescue her? Once upon a time, and long ago, there was a country where traversing the land between and among towns required crossing a number of cars. A car is like a bog. It's a waterlogged, woody area that can be very dangerous to walk through. It's always a risky sort of place to cross, but these can be especially risky at night when the safe paths are hard to see, and one wrong step will send you into the murky waters. You might lose all your belongings. You might get caught on a snag, which is a branch or dead tree hidden below the surface of the water. Or you might simply take a wrong turn and get lost in the car, wandering far from the safe path, having to slowly find your way back out again. Unfortunately for the people who lived in this land, night wasn't only made more dangerous by the challenges of navigating the car in the dark. No, this complex landscape was made more difficult by a variety of mischievous fae folk who enjoyed tricking travelers when they were trying to cross the car. As soon as the sun set, the creatures would be out in force, looking for the chance to trick anyone foolish enough to try and cross the car at night. Will-o'-the-wisps would light the wrong pathways, trying to lead folks deeper into the bog and away from safe paths, or right off the paths and into the deep pools. Bogies would try and scare travelers off the path and into the water, or make eerie noises to discourage them from the safe paths through. However, and fortunately, the people of this land had one true and loyal ally, the moon. By her strong and shining light, even the hazards of the car could be safely navigated and overcome. No one especially wanted to try and cross it at night, but sometimes you needed to fetch a doctor, or you stayed too long at a friend's house, or some other urgent matter required that you cross at night. Everyone knew that there were a handful of nights a month where the moon was busy elsewhere and could not shine her light down upon the carland. On those nights, you hoped you made sure to be well away from the car by dark, and you hoped you didn't have an emergency. But life doesn't always cooperate with one's wishes, and on one dark and moonless night, a young girl took gravely ill. A doctor was needed, urgently, and the fastest way to the doctor's house was through the heart of a car. With a house full of other children who could not be left alone, her parents agreed. The father would carry her on his back through the car as quickly as possible to get her to the doctor. They settled the feverish child onto her father's back, and he set off, moving as quickly as he could over the dark landscape. When he reached the car, he added more caution to his steps, attempting to move as quietly through that dangerous place as possible. But the bogies and the will-o'-the-wisps heard him anyway. Though he knew the safe paths well, the eerie lights of the will-o'-the-wisps and the howls of the bogies soon threw him into such confusion that he became lost. Desperate to get his child to the doctor and terrified that he would take a wrong step and throw them both into the dark water, he cried out a plea. "Oh, moon, I know it is your resting day, but I beg you to help me save the life of my daughter. Only light my way long enough for me to get her safely out of this car, and I will owe you forevermore." Even in her sleep, the moon heard the man's anguished plea. She roused herself and looked down to find him, surrounded by the bad fairies who meant him and his daughter harm, and as tired as she could not let it be. Bracing herself, she forced her light to shine as brilliantly as it ever did on the brightest, fullest moon. And in the pure silver of her light, the true path through the car was revealed. The father gasped out a "thank you" to the moon as he raced back onto the real path and through the car. The moon held on as long as she could, leaning low to provide more and more light for the man and his daughter. She felt herself tiring, and her light began to flicker and dim just as he neared the edge. Through sheer willpower, she forced herself to hold on until both his feet were out of the car and onto the solid, safe expanse of land leading to the doctor's village. Lights from the village were visible in the distance, and the man, realizing he was out of the car and onto firm ground, broke into a run, bolting for the doctor's house. Still, she held on, even until he reached the doctor's door, who admitted them immediately and began working to save the girl. She held on until she heard him say the child would be all right. But by then, she had held on for too long. And before she even realized what was happening, she found herself falling. Too exhausted to save herself, the moon plunged down, 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 and into the pitch-dark waters of the car. She felt herself sinking, but the ice cold of the water revived her enough that she attempted to struggle back to the surface, her light flickering weakly around her. She almost made it, could see the trees above her by her pale light. And then she felt herself yanked backwards. She fought whatever had grabbed her, but she could not move an inch further towards the surface and freedom. Though her light was dimming by the moment, the moon was able to turn enough to see that her long silver hair had become tangled in a snag. She frantically tried to unwind herself from the branch that had seized her, but nothing worked. She was too tired. Her fingers moved like lead, and it seemed that the more she fought, the further entrapped she became. She had nothing left. Her light flickered desperately like a guttering candle. Exhausted beyond belief, the moon gave up. Her light extinguished, leaving her in the total darkness of the waters of the car. And the moon slipped into a deep and dreamless slumber. It took a couple of days for the people to notice her absence. After all, there were at least a couple of days a month where the moon was dark. But by the third, they had begun to wonder. By the fourth, they were well and truly suspicious that something was wrong. Those who wandered near the car as the sun was vanishing behind the horizon reported nasty taunting from the creatures of that place, daring them to enter, laughing about the vanished moon. One woman whose house was nearest the car relayed that a bogey had been so bold as to come to her window in the night and dare her to come and seek the moon trapped in the car. Everyone agreed. Clearly, those nasty fairies of the car had something to do with their missing moon. But what? It was the father of the now recovering girl who solved the mystery. He told the villagers of his midnight trek with his daughter through the car on the moonless night, and of his plea to the moon to save him, and of how she had, lighting his path all the way to the doctor's door. His daughter had been too sick. He had been too desperate. He had not thought beyond saving her at the time, But he realized now that something must have happened to the moon after he made it into that house. "I reckon she must be trapped somewhere in that car," he told the people. "And I have to find her. I have to save her, just like she saved my daughter." To his surprise, and though it was risky, everyone who was able immediately volunteered to help. They loved the moon and wanted to help her, as much for her own sake as for how they'd come to rely on her to safely see them home through their wild and dangerous landscape. Anyone who'd lived there long enough had a story of how the moon had saved them at least once, sometimes many times. In truth, even if the moon had been the greatest villain they'd known, the people would have worked to find and save her, because no one deserved to be left to the car and the mean-spirited fairies that dwelt there. From the morning till the evening of the 5th day, the villagers searched the car. They followed every path they knew of and tried many that they didn't. And more than one person found themselves deposited in the murky waters as they searched. No one was lost. There were always helping hands to pull the unlucky ones out, but there was no sign of the moon at all. As the sun began to set, the villagers made their way out of the car and gathered on the solid land at the outskirts. "What can we do? The baddies will be out soon, and we've seen no sign of her," one said. "Perhaps she's not in the car at all," another wondered. "No, she's there. She must be," the father insisted. They stood, debating what to do, as the last rays of the sunset dimmed to nothing. "Look!" someone cried. A pale, silver light was now visible, emanating from the heart of the car. It was not the wavering, shifting, ghostly, and tricksome light of the wisps, but a dim version of the true guiding light of the moon. Though they had been all over the car that day, the bright light of the sun had obscured this pale glow. It had to be the moon. Rushing into action, the villagers formed a single-file chain, with the girl's father at the front. They carefully wound their way along the safe path through the car, barely lit by that pale light. The glow increased as they made it further in, until at last they came to the pool where the moon had fallen. The normally dark water there was now ablaze, revealing to the startled villagers the slumbering, entangled form of the moon. They quickly tied a hank of sturdy rope around the waist of the girl's father, who insisted on going in after her. With many hands holding his tether, prepared to pull him and the moon back to safety, he dove deep down into the pool. He found the snag that had caught the moon, but was unable to untangle her silvery hair, so bound by the jagged branch had it become. With a wince of apology, he unsheathed his pocket knife and cut the moon free from the branch, severing her from the long silver hair that had bound her to the snag. When he dragged her to the surface, the people around the pool cheered and helped to reel him and the moon towards the safety of the path. And as the cool night air touched the moon's slumbering face, she awoke with a gasp. Before they could finish pulling her to land, she rose up out of the water of her own accord. "Thank you for saving me," she said. "I had recovered enough to shine a bit, but the water and the evil things that dwell here kept me from freeing myself, or shining bright enough to drive them away. I know you risked yourselves to find me." "Thank you for saving my daughter's life," the father called to her from the pool. "I could never repay you for that." "And for lighting our way through the car into safety on countless nights," a villager cried. "Having been trapped here for a time, I think I understand that sentiment much more than I ever did before," the moon replied. "And in thanks for rescuing me, I'll see about solving some of these problems for good. Go to your homes and your rest, and leave the car to me." Obeying her, the villagers trekked back out of the car, guided by the much brighter light of the recovered moon as she shone full and lovely down upon their path. When they left the car and were all upon the solid ground outside, they saw a brilliant flash, much brighter than the normal full moon, wash over the entirety of the cars. A furious cry echoed in the aftermath of the blaze of light. And then the sky all around the people was filled with will-o'-the-wisps and bogies and other nasty fairies as they flew up and out of the car and zoomed away and out of sight as fast as their wings could carry them. From that day on, no nasty fey creature dared to enter the land. And in the next dark period of the moon's rest, the people found still one more surprise. The cars remained as brightly lit as on the fullest moon. When they went to investigate, they found that the pool where she had been trapped and freed continued to emit enough moonlight to ensure safe passage through the entire series of carlins, thanks to the magic from the hair she had left tangled in the snag when they freed her. To this day, the people will tell you the story of how the moon was buried, how she was found, and how she ensured the safety of that land and its people for the rest of their days. The end. That's it for this month. If you want, you can check out @Foggy Oak Fairy Tales on Instagram or @Foggy Oak Farm on Facebook to keep up with farm pictures and various goings-on in between episodes. And when you feel a chill wind blow and see the leaves begin to turn, it'll be Foggy Oak Scary Tales time. See you soon.